It's circular like Chinatown. We're going back to Rob Schneider. The very first Blockbusters review for the Blockbusters show was Norm of the North. And now we're going back to his pet project, his shortly lived Netflix series, Real Rob. So, in between the first Norm of the North, which came out in 2016, you had Real Rob on Netflix, which the first season was 2015, and then the second season was 2017. And it's a show about everyone's favorite SNL/Happy Masson alumni member, Rob Schneider. The star of such classic movies as Rob Schneider is a Carrot and Herpa-derpa-derpa-derp. But like a lot of other people, I discovered this show through Sleepy Cabin podcast when Zach Psychic Pebbles talked a little bit about this show, and I got curious about it. So yeah, it's still tucked away deep in the bowels of Netflix, yet they still felt the need to take cuties of all fucking things. I joked about this with a buddy not too long ago, but I think that kind of summarizes Netflix's whole modus operandi. You know, they got 1% good stuff, a bunch of really crappy teen comedies, a bunch of really crappy TV shows, crappy original movies, and then sandwiched in between is stuff you actually want to see, or they're just banking on nostalgia, like how they recently picked up everyone's favorite anime. But there's actually another reason why I'm wearing the Seinfeld shirt, because after watching a couple episodes of Real Rob, it really does feel like this show was his attempt at trying to replicate something like Seinfeld or Curb Your Enthusiasm. Now keep note of this, because they actually make a joke about it in like the first or second episode, but Rob Schneider actually had a TV show before this. It was on CBS, it was called Rob, and it lasted like 1 or 2 seasons.
I love your show on CBS, and I'd like to be a regular on it.
It got canceled 2 years ago.
But after that show got the axe, he decided he tried to make a more adult show, because there's a lot more swearing, a lot more crude humor in this, so that way he's not just limited to the TV sitcom cliched garbage. No, he wants to break out of those 4 walls and actually make something that's groundbreaking and revolutionary. By doing that, he created a show that was basically just his attempt at ripping off Curb or Seinfeld or Louie or any of those shows that's supposed to be about a famous person or a famous person's life, and how, you know, despite being rich and famous, they still have really miserable lives behind it all. So the episodes that really stick out to me are the first 3 episodes that I saw. The pilot is basically about Rob trying to get a hold of all these different gigs that he has going on, but his assistant is incompetent, so he ends up relying on a stalker who becomes a reoccurring character. It's a guy who pretty much lives in his car and just kind of stares at Rob and his family like from across the street. Second episode is about Rob Schneider's wife convincing him to get a vasectomy because she doesn't want to have any more kids, but he wants to have kids.
Oh, hey, listen, Rob. I just want to thank you for agreeing to meet with me. It sure means the world to me.
I called you to meet me.
You did? Well, that's nice, too.
Anyway, Patty wants me to have a vasectomy.
Oh, my goodness, that's quite a coincidence. I have had a vasectomy.
And then the last episode ends up with him ending up on a billboard for erectile dysfunction. Now, the thing is, with shows like this, they don't really stick to the typical sitcom format. They usually try to go for more of a realistic or like dry, cynical humor kind of thing. And while there are elements of that, it feels like this show is trying to mix something like Curb Your Enthusiasm with something like, say, Modern Family. Because there's a lot of this where it tries to go with that relatable, kind of awkward, but oh, it's just so, you know, sitcom-ish, but it's so playful and funny, and you just have to laugh at the situations that are going on. They're so gosh darn wacky. Except the thing is, Modern Family actually made that kind of thing work, because it was actually a pretty well-written show. Most of the time with this show, it feels like it doesn't really know what it's trying to do. Another key example of that is the way that they write the character of Rob Schneider himself. Again, comparing it to shows like Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is based on the life of Larry David, and Larry David plays a, over-the-top fictionalized version of himself, and he portrays himself as this petty, neurotic, self-important, like, freak. Everyone around him pretty much wonders why they even hang around him. And the reason that it's funny is because Larry David is just a very funny, talented writer. I mean, he pretty much tried to project himself into George Costanza with Seinfeld, and it was funny because it's such an exaggerated personality, and his style of humor really worked well with Seinfeld, and it transferred over when he started doing Curb Your Enthusiasm. Even if you want to take Seinfeld, which that technically was a sitcom, but it didn't really fall trapping to a lot of the sitcom cliches, or even if it did, it usually subverted it. Like, it pretty much went against the grain of what a lot of other sitcoms were doing at the time. Back then, it was either about a bunch of pretty people getting together at the coffee shop and just doing a bunch of wacky 20-something-year-old stuff, or it would be about some lovable, relatable family from the suburbs or the city or something like that. Seinfeld subverted that because it made its characters do a bunch of really morally dubious and questionable things, and that's what made it so charming to watch. And that kind of thing bled over to not just shows like Curb Your Enthusiasm, but something like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which ramped it up even more and made the characters even more unlikable. But the thing with shows like that is because the characters are so unlikable and do such outlandish things, that's what makes them funny, because they do things that no ordinary person would do. And on top of that, usually you have characters within the realities of these shows that would point out what these characters are doing are terrible, and that they're losers, and that they're pathetic. Like, in Sunny, you have characters like the waitress, and the lawyer, and people like that who would point out that what the gang do is horrible. And usually the gang will get screwed over because of their own incompetence, or they'll end up screwing over the reasonable people and making their lives 10 times worse. Again, that's what made that show work. Here's what makes something like Real Rob not work. Again, going back to the tonal whiplash with this show, sometimes it wants to do that thing where it's poking fun at the celebrity and making fun of some of the stuff that they've done in their real life. Like, Curb Your Enthusiasm definitely did that, and there were even a few moments like that in Seinfeld.
The ego on you. Why can't I be bombable? Who's gonna bomb you? An airline for all the stupid little peanut jokes?
And while there are moments where it feels like they're trying to do that, they're trying to poke fun at Rob Schneider, it feels like it never really commits to it. There's plenty of times where Rob Schneider just gets to show off the fact that, oh, he lives in a super awesome house with a super hot wife and, lots of money, and oh, he has such a great movie career being in movies like The Hot Chick and The Animal.
I'm gonna go out to my $150,000 car, drive back to my $2 million house, and hang out with my hot 29-year-old wife.
Never really 100% nails the whole self-deprecating humor that you see in something like Curb Your Enthusiasm. There's elements of it in there, and I could clearly see that maybe with some better writing they could have succeeded at that, but they never fully commit to it at all. Going back to the comparisons again, just like in Seinfeld, there would be parts where Rob Schneider is doing stand-up that cut off certain parts of the episode as transitions, and it'll be like him standing in front of a brick wall telling jokes that kind of relate to the episode. And I was confused by that at first because I was like, wait, does Rob Schneider even do stand-up? I thought he was known for being a character actor on SNL and Adam Sandler movies.
I'm at the age now where every commercial on TV seems aimed at me, You're watching TV. Are you tired? Do you not have the energy you used to have? You could have low T, low testosterone. They just come out and say what they really mean. Is your dick no good? You could have NGD, no good dick.
Before I watched the show, I skimmed through a little bit of that sleepy cabin thing, and yeah, I remember Zach bringing up that, yes, Rob Schneider has done stand-up, and a lot of his stand-up isn't very good, and so I imagine that the stand-up that's in this is probably on par with that.
A couple of years later, he calls me up and says, "Hey, Robbie, why don't you come out and do this one line in my new movie, The Water Boy?" I go, "Well, what's the line?" Just come on. Just fly out here and make a studio pay for it. Who gives a shit? Come on, just get on a plane and we'll figure it out when you get here. The next morning, I go, "Come on, what's my line? You flew me all the way out here. I want to be able to think about it. What the hell's the line?" He said, just say something like, "You can do it." So, well, what does it mean? What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. We probably won't even use it. Come on, just say it 1,000 different ways. Make a studio pay for it. Who gives a shit, I sound like an idiot. I'm like, "You can do it."
One of the things that really sticks out about this show is the production. A lot of times it looks like it's just trying to be an average run-of-the-mill sitcom. The first shot in the pilot is a thing where Rob Schneider and his wife are in bed, and there's a spotlight on them, and then it's supposed to be them with lights off, and then they turn on the lights next to them on their nightstands, and I'm like, wait a minute, that was supposed to be them in the dark with no light whatsoever, and then they decide to turn on the lights next to them. What? Like, what?
Don't touch my boobs.
Why not?
I don't want all that bacteria on my nipples.
It's like when you're watching, like, a televised version of a stage play, and it's like they can't have the lights go out entirely, so they have like a spotlight, like that's supposed to be metaphorically the characters in bed at night, and then they have to turn on the lights so that they can engage in the scene. Another thing that sticks out about the production is the color grading, and I don't know if this is like a new thing going on, where I brought this up in a couple other videos, but it feels like nowadays they try to color grade stuff to look like Skittles vomit, where they have certain colors pop on screen. But Rob Schneider's eyes are like crystal blue. Like every time he has his eyes wide in shots, his eyes pop, and it's really distracting. Yeah, just like Seinfeld or Curb, it feels like it tries to be relatable, where it's like you have, you know, just a celebrity, but they're doing relatable things, and their life isn't easy. They're no different than the regular working stiffs, and so it's like you got episodes of him trying to get a vasectomy, or, you know, do errands with his kid or something like that. But the problem is, it's just, the writing is just kind of what holds it down. They'll have setups for jokes, and then they don't really do anything with it. Like, Rob Schneider takes his kid to like this daycare event, and at one point he starts freaking out at his agent on the phone, and then a lady's like, you know, shh, stop, don't say the F word in front of all these kids, shh. And he just goes, oh, okay, I'm sorry. And then that's it. And then he sees that his daughter threw up on a woman, and he's like, oh, well, I got spare clothes in the car. I'll be right back. But first, let me try and get some of the spit up off you. Oh, this is embarrassing. Oh, wacky. And then he just runs to his car and takes off, and then that's that. Then there's moments where, again, it just falls into the trappings of like just a really mediocre, lame CBS or ABC Family style sitcom. Like, you got wacky recurring characters like his assistant, who looks like a Kmart Ed Helms, but then I looked into him. He's apparently a really close buddy of Rob Schneider, and he was actually in Norm of the North as a background voice, so there you go. There's the recurring character of the stalker, who in one episode, Rob goes over to him to talk to him over the fence, and I just started getting Home Improvement vibes. Like, all he was missing was a bucket hat and, you know, hide his face and go, howdy there, neighbor. Rob and his wife have a babysitter for their 11-month-old, and the joke is that he's this, like vaguely European bodybuilder guy who always runs around in spandex, and he just kind of blindly does whatever they tell him to do. So he's like a mimbo, I guess. And the running gag with him is that Rob either thinks that he is trying to have sex with his wife, or he thinks that the guy is gay. They keep making jokes about how he has a shaved chest and how he's always running around in tights, and like that's pretty much the only jokes they do with that character.
What makes you think that? I don't think he's gay. What are you talking about? He's ripped and hairless. That's like the gay uniform.
Now, not every performance in this show is bad. Like, as much as I was joking about the assistant guy, he actually comes off as relatively likable because he's just there to be Rob Schneider's whipping boy. Like, he's just there to be put down by Rob Schneider because he's kind of a buffoon. And again, he falls into that, like, sitcom cliche of, you know, the goofy, bumbling best friend character, basically. And, I mean, Rob Schneider's wife, she's okay in it. I mean, like, she gives an okay performance as the wife. You know, I don't know if she was in a lot of other things, but I mean, it's like, if she was in a few other things, maybe she would be better, or maybe if she had better material. She was honestly more believable than Rob Schneider, who, I don't know, I just cannot see as this, like, neurotic, pessimistic Larry David type character like he's trying to portray. And again, like I said, there's parts where it feels like they're trying to have that kind of Curb Your Enthusiasm, oh, we're being self-referential and poking fun at this person's career and making fun of the dumb things they've done. But then it just stops and they go, oh, no, that's enough of that. Because, again, it feels like Rob Schneider just didn't want to go the extra mile and actually make fun of his career. And again, in the first episode, he goes to a book signing, and I swear to God, he unironically signs one of the books, You Can Do It.
There you go. Okay, thanks now. You can do it.
I can't see him playing the Larry David character from that show. I can only see Rob Schneider playing goofy best friend characters for Adam Sandler to bounce off of. And if it's not that, I just imagine him playing Deuce Bigelow or something like that, where it's like, you know, the wormy guy who eventually comes out of his shell, basically every single Happy Madison man-child main character. From the episodes I've seen, I just couldn't believe him in that role. Again, it doesn't help with the tonal confusion of sometimes they'll have characters make fun of Rob Schneider, and then other times you'll have people stop him on the street and go, "Hey, Rob Schneider, oh, you were great in that movie."
I just hit a guy.
Hitting a pedestrian can be very stressful, sir. You could be in shock. You want to sit down, or?
I think I'm all right.
Okay, well, if you need anything, sir, don't hesitate to call me, all right? Can I get you a water? Cold something to drink, lemonade?
Maybe a water would be great.
Cold water for Mr. Schneider, partner.
So clearly, these people hadn't seen nothing yet, because after this, he then released his magnum opus. Yes, just a year after the first season of this, he then stood out as the main character in Norm of the North, his breakout performance.
Someone's coming. Act natural. Not that natural.
As much as I was joking earlier about this being the embarrassment of Netflix, I honestly think Netflix has had worse stuff than this. Because I sat there and I'm like, you know, if this was in the hands of better writers, this probably could have been a really funny show. And making fun of, you know, a comedic actor who thinks he's funnier than he really is. Netflix is filled with a bunch of other garbage that I'll probably end up reviewing at some point. I mean, fuck, you got 3 Kissing Booth movies on Netflix. The fact that Netflix was like, yeah, that gets a pass, but this, yeah, no, that's bad. Let's tuck that away. It's like, shit, man. Netflix, just let's stop picking and choosing what kind of garbage you're throwing on your main page, all right? A lot of it is garbage. You may have like 1 or 2 good things that you're banking off of, or you pick up something from people's nostalgia and try to bank off of that, but let's face it, yeah, Kissing Booth, Real Rob, they're kind of on the same level of trash, okay? I think the best way to describe the show, I was more interested in the show that it could have been than actually laughing at the show that it was. Because again, I was just sitting there thinking, this could be funny if it was in the hands of actual writers. But like I said, just all the problems that weigh it down make it just such a boring and just unfunny watch. Just none of the jokes really made me laugh. I just kept groaning, wishing that I was watching either something like Modern Family or Curb or Seinfeld or something like that. It just, yeah, it's just, So next time on Blockbusters, we're going to be reviewing other people's reviews. Kind of like that one time where it was the video I did, Adam reads bad movie reviews, except this time we're not only going to be watching bad movie reviews, we're also going to watch bad game reviews. And I'm going to be, like I said, responding to some of these videos, and some of them are pretty well known. Like, I mean, you got, we're going to talk very briefly about some of the more popular ones people like to talk about, like Confused Matthew's Lion King review, the Nostalgia Critic review of The Wall. Just going to try and brush over those and talk about some other ones. But until then, guys, I'm Adam Sykes of The Blockbuster Show, and we will see you guys in the next video.
There's one bit where he was like, Adam Sandler called me up and said, "I want you to do a little part for me." And I was like, "What's the line?" He was like, "You can do it." And now look at me. Look how big I am now.
That's not
He's
at all.
bragging
He
about
never
the
said
part.
that. He never said that on
Type
stage.
in Rob Schneider, you can do it. Stand up.
Never,
I swear to God,
said
he's
that.
fucking deluded.